Well, good morning, fifth grade Bible. We're going to be looking at Esther chapter 7 today. We're going to find out what happens when Esther finally reveals Haman's plot to the king. Now, I want you to think about something. Have you ever dreaded having a certain conversation with someone, no matter how many times you rehearse it in your mind, even if it's to your parents, like, I need to talk to them about this, how I didn't agree, and this is what I want to say. It doesn't get any easier. For Esther, the prospect of, or the idea of speaking to the king must have weighed heavy on Esther as she prepared for that second banquet. Remember, she had the first banquet, and then she said, the king asked her, well, what do you want? And she goes, oh, I'll tell you another time. I want you to come to a second banquet. Well, she'd promised to tell her husband, King Xerxes, what was bothering her. But think about this. She has to carefully choose her words wisely. If Haman's actions are to be exposed, Esther has to confront him face to face. Oh, how hard is that, to confront someone face to face that you are having problems with? Or there's a problem that has to be brought out into the open. So without openly accusing the king, she has to plead for her life and the lives of her people. Now put yourself in Esther's shoes. How would you have approached this difficult situation? You know, there's a verse in the Bible in Proverbs 25:15 that says, a gentle tongue can break bones, meaning how you use your words and how you speak truth to someone can cause major issues. And if your tongue is gentle, meaning your words are wise and soft but truthful, man, it has the power, so much power in it, enough power to break bones, figuratively, okay? Esther waited patiently. She prayed for the right moment to speak, and in that moment of truth, her wise words, did they work? So let's get into reading chapter 7. Esther reveals Haman's plot. We're on chapter 7. Here we go. While they were yet talking with him, the king's eunuchs, or the slaves, arrived and hurried to bring Haman to the feast that Esther had prepared. So the king and Haman went to the feast with Queen Esther, and on the second day, as they were drinking wine after the feast, the king again said to Esther, what is your wish, Queen Esther? He was smitten by her. He was like, whatever you want, you can have it. And part of that is the way she carried herself, how she was very wise. She didn't want all the major things. She was very gentle, okay? It shall be granted to you. And what is your request? Even to the half of my kingdom, it shall be given to you. Then Queen Esther answered, if I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it pleases the king, let my life be granted me for my wish and my people for my request. Now imagine the king hearing those words, like, well, what do you mean, spare your life? You're the queen. What are you talking about? Because remember, he had no idea she was a Jew. She keeps going. For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed and to be killed and to be annihilated. If we had been sold merely as slaves, men and women, I would have been silent, for our affliction is not to be compared with the loss to the king. Then King Xerxes said to Queen Esther, who is he and where is he who has dared to do this? Oh, you remember who's at this banquet? It's Esther, King Xerxes, and who else? Haman. Now, Matt, put yourself in Haman's shoes. Imagine being that person who set up this whole law and kind of coaxed the king to go along with it to kill a mass of people. And that mass of people includes the king's wife. And no one knew that she was a part of that group except for Mordecai. Now, he probably went from, imagine that roller coaster ride. Haman probably went from being like, I'm the king of the world, even though King Xerxes is the king of the world, but I'm up there too because the queen has invited me for a second time to come to this banquet. And now he's sitting there hearing these words, and I could just picture him like slinking down in his seat, like, oh shoot. So here's what, and the king's like, who said these words? Who said that? I'm gonna kill him, okay? The anger of someone who is in love, right? And we know he gets angry easily. Esther said, a foe, an enemy did this. This wicked Haman, and she points to him. Then Haman was terrified before the king and the queen. She pointed out to Haman's face that this is the person that's trying to kill me and my people. So what happens to Haman? You got someone, a king who is just in love with his wife and would do anything for her. He mistakenly sets up this plot to have her people killed. And then you have Esther who called Haman out on it, okay? So here's what happened to Haman. The king arose in his wrath from the wine drinking and went into the palace garden. But Haman stayed to beg for his life from Queen Esther, for he saw that harm was determined against him by the king. So the king storms out of there, angry beyond anything you could imagine, and Haman just stays there. You ever get in trouble with your parents and they walk away and you just kind of sit there like, I don't want to move? That's kind of what's going on here, except your parents aren't literally going to kill you. The king was literally going to kill Haman, and he knew it, okay? And the king returned from the palace garden to the place where they were drinking wine as Haman was falling on the couch where Esther was. And the king said, will he even attack the queen in my presence in my own house? See, Haman was like begging on his hands and knees, like, please, please don't. I didn't know. And as the king came in, you didn't touch the queen. It didn't matter who you were. And he had his hands on the queen, but it was in a way of begging, not what the king saw. The king thought he was trying to attack Esther. So he yells, you're going to attack her in my presence, in my house? And as the word left the mouth of the king, they covered Haman's face. Then one of the king's slaves in attendance to the king said, moreover, the gallows that Haman has prepared for Mordecai, whose sword saved the king, is standing at Haman's house, 50 cubits high. You guys remember how high that is? And the king said, hang him on that. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then the wrath of the king went away. Wow. Haman, I guess you could say, got what was coming to him. So now what's going to happen to all of the Jews that were supposed to die? So Esther had to face speaking truth in a very difficult situation, but she did it in a way where her words were wise. I want you to leave a comment below. Mrs. Houchin is going to turn off the comments so you can't see what people have written. I want you to leave behind 2 comments or two things that were new to you in this story. 2 things that were new to you in chapter 7. I love you guys, and I will finish the story of Esther on Thursday.